Alrighty, well, let's get started. We seem to be doing good on time here. So again, thank you all for joining me this morning. I am going to mute microphones, but you're more than welcome to unmute yourself if you ever have any question or something goes awry and you need to let me know. There is also a chat box at the bottom here, so you can use that as well. I am going to have us start in that supported posture we've been doing, a Supta Baddha Konasana with a blanket and a pillow, but I will move on to my mat and I will explain all those things for those of us that might not have done that yet with us. Now, if you would like to play some music or whatever you need to do on your end to help your mind and body stay focused and give yourself a practice, undistracted practice this morning, by all means do so. So let me move over here. I got my watch on today. I don't think it was with you all, but I started teaching a class. No, it was at this other studio, and I didn't have my watch on. And I swear I was like, oh my gosh, good thing I noticed. We would have done like a 3-hour class. I was just like, well, talkie. All right, so good morning again. A pillow, bed pillow, cushion from the sofa, or bolster. That's what this represents. I also would like us to get into possibly a pose with our yoga strap today. So if you have a strap, just have it nearby. We'll see. Sometimes I have intentions and then I get carried away, so we never quite know where we're going to end up. I have a washcloth here, some type of eye covering towards the end of class. A yoga block would be great today. So when we do our supported bridge pose, laying on our yoga block would be great. If you don't have a yoga block, that's fine. Taking a bath towel, this is a bath towel, and making it into a smaller, firmer fold will give you a little bit of lift. We can also use our towel as a strap. So if you don't have a strap, folding a towel lengthwise, rolling it on up, will do the trick, or a long scarf. And then a blanket and or the same towel. So we'll do our supported Supta Baddha Konasana with our pillow that we'll place towards the front of our yoga mat for support for the legs. If you don't have a blanket, just take that towel, fold it lengthwise, and then I just folded it in half again, so I have a longer rectangle. And then I'm going to take this and fold it long ways to long ways. So I have this long, skinny, gentle support. If you have a bigger blanket, you can get it into the shape of a long rectangle, just like we did with our towel. Fold it in half, smaller rectangle, and then take the long ends together. Whoops, mine just came undone. So same thing. I end up with a long rectangle that's maybe just an inch or two high. That longer rectangular shape we'll take towards the back of our mat, and we'll allow the blanket to support low back, mid back, upper back, and the back of the head. Some people like to slide that blanket a little closer to the low back. Some people like to leave about a fist distance between the end of the blanket and their sit bone so that the low back can kind of sink. We will sit to the ground and start organizing ourselves here. And I'll give us all a moment to get comfy. So when you sit here, you want to align your spine up with that blanket. Again, you can slide it closer, further away, whatever feels best for you. I do want you to lengthen out that low back, drawing the tailbone down. Carefully come onto that blanket. So depending on the width of our rectangle, some of us will get a little bit more of a chest opener. So if your rectangle is a little bit more skinny, your shoulders will fall off the edges more. Mine's a little bit wider, so it's not as expansive, which is fine because I am taking care of a shoulder right now. We'll bend at the elbows, backs of the hands fall towards the ground. And because of that little impingement that I have, my left hand doesn't fall to the ground like it normally does. If you experience that in one or both hands, slide additional props behind the hands, or just move your arms around until you feel like you're in your most comfortable position. Give the head extra support if needed. And then with our legs, you already know where you want to go. That's great. If you're not sure this morning, One option, if you do take care of the low back, is to keep your knees bent, feet flat to the floor, and we allow the knees fall together. Bringing that pillow up behind the creases of the knees can feel quite nice as a little additional support. If we want to go right into a little bit more opening for the legs and the hips, the Baddha Konasana portion of this, or bound angle, soles of the feet come together and the knees fall open. And then of course, we can simply extend the legs out. Allow the legs to be slightly wider than the hips and allow the feet to fall open in more of a Shavasana position. And then we'll close our eyes. Let's take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And then exhale back out through the nose and just feel the whole weight of the body relax and release to the ground. Let's do that one more time. Nice deep breath in. Let's fill ourselves up. An even bigger breath out on this exhale. Feel the whole body begin to relax. Let go of any tension, tightness. As our body settles onto our mat, we turn our attention inward and bring our brain within the four corners of our yoga mat this morning. Make any adjustments that you need to in the beginning so we can find stillness in the end. We'll take a mental scan of our body, really important to take some inventory before we start to move our practice so that we really are aware of how we feel today. Start from the top of the head and we'll work out to the fingertips and toes. Continuing to relax and let go of muscular tension and tightness. Loosen the joints of the body. Recognizing any areas that might feel a little tender, maybe need a little extra TLC. And giving ourselves that permission to adjust, modify our practice. Sometimes stepping back a few degrees is the most challenging part of our practice, but a lot can be learned in that space as well. So soften all those little muscles across the face, poof the cheeks with air, release the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Feel the heaviness of the arms, and on our little support here, that opening across the chest and heart. Little space between the rib cage, low back sinks down, soften the abdomen around those hips and hip sockets, and all the way down those legs. And now let's start to spread this awareness, observing and watching the natural breath of the body this morning. Noticing any subtle movements of the body with the breath. Maybe noticing the subtle difference in temperature between the inhale and exhale of the breath. And then take a moment to notice the flow of the breath around the nostrils and the tip of the nose. And we might notice that one side feels a little bit more open, or the air seems to flow a little bit more freely through that side, which is totally normal. And also remembering that when we make these observations of the body and the breath, we do so without judgment. We're not labeling any of it good or bad. We're simply acting as a witness, looking from the outside in. So we will do a little bit of our Bandha pranayama this morning. So we'll start to work with our breath and start to wake up and engage these lower bandhas or locks in our body. But on a physical level, when we can start to train those muscles, it has a really powerful effect and benefit for our pelvic floor, our urinary tract system, the reproductive organs, and it's also a gentle way to help tone and strengthen the lower abdominal muscles, which in turn support our low back. So we should start to notice that when we breathe in through the nose, that the body naturally expands. So we'll emphasize that a little bit more. And on our next inhale, really let the belly expand. We'll even feel that across the chest, the rib cage again. And then on our exhales is where we'll do the work. So on our next exhale, just about an inch below the navel center, try to contract those muscles, pulling them in towards the body and up. Simultaneously tighten up the perineum of the pelvic floor and pretend that you're trying to pull those muscles up into the body. On the inhale, we relax. So we drop the pelvic floor and we allow the abdomen to expand like a balloon, filling ourselves up. The exhale, we start contracting and tightening. Lower abdominals, pelvic floor, squeeze, and not only contract, but feel this energy pulling up into the body. And then on the inhale, we drop, release, relax, and expand. And we'll all follow our own natural rhythm. Do try to breathe as evenly as possible. So creating that balance between our exhale and inhale. And we want to start this process off pretty gently as well. So if you ever experience any cramping or discomfort, we'll want to take those couple steps back. It's okay to back off and then start again and take breaks as needed. And the more we practice these engagements of the pelvic floor and lower abdominals, I don't want to say easier, the more comfortable we become with it. So it's really important and beneficial to practice these every day. So let's try one more round with our breath. And this next round of breath, let's also try to maybe expand just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a lot, but on our next inhale, maybe sipping just 1 or 2 more counts in, really filling ourselves up with some fresh air, prana, and energy. And again, the exhale is just as important. So whenever we get to our next exhale, let's all take the time to squeeze, contract, push all that stale old air and energy out of the body, clean everything out. At the bottom of that exhale, we will let go of trying to follow and control the breath for a moment. So let the body relax, let the breath relax. Let's start to feel our physical body again here on the floor. And start to wake the body up. Just by waking up the toes, give them a little wiggle, the fingertips, a rock of the head side to side. If our knees are open in Baddha Konasana, float the knees up, and let's all try to stretch our legs out on our mat. And then depending how this feels with your shoulders and how high up you are on your prop, carefully slide your arms overhead as far as you can into our nice long body stretch. And then point and flex the feet a couple times. Start creating length through the side bodies. Spread those fingers and toes. Take one more deep breath in. And then on the exhale, we'll float our arms down, walk our feet in. And again, just be mindful how you're supported here. The knees can float up a little bit. They might not come as close if you're elevated. Right arm will fall back down to the ground beside the head, and we'll roll to our right and just pause for a moment to come off our props. And then let's press into the ground and slowly bring our body up. And we'll slide the props out of the way, and we will lie back down on the ground just for a moment here. I want us to do a little bit more fluid movement to get our joints loosened up here first thing in the morning. So once we clear our space, we'll just lie right back down onto our mat. Readjust the clothing, adjust the shoulder blades. Re-extend both legs down the middle of the mat and bring the insides of the legs as close to touch as possible. Arms come right down beside the body, palms down. So this is a flowing movement called water pump pose. We'll coordinate our movement with our breath. So as we inhale, reach the arms up to the ceiling and all the way back overhead. Simultaneously flex your feet. So pull those toes towards your shin bones. Spread your fingers and toes. Now on the exhale, a little bit more work. Point your toes to the front of the mat. Pump your arms down.
Hug those muscles to the bone. Push your arms down towards the ground. On the inhale, re-extend arms overhead. Flex the feet, spread fingers and toes. You'll notice that the low back wants to gently arch. Exhale, point the toes. Push your arms through thick mud. Draw the lower abdominals in. Squeeze. Even a little tightening of the pelvic floor. Inhale, re-extend. So we will add a little abdominal crunch here for those of us that want it. Exhale, point the toes, pull the belly in, push your arms down, head may float up, looking towards your toes, really contracting those abdominals. And then on the inhale, re-extend and the head floats down. 2 more. You can really exaggerate this pumping down. Feel some resistance here. Draw that low belly in. Inhale reaches us overhead. 1 more. We'll meet on the inhale with the arms overhead, the feet flex. Now we'll flow into Pavana Muktasana. So a little bit more work for the core, warming for the hips. Exhale, pull the belly in. Bend your right knee up. Continue to pump your arms down beside you. The head may continue to float up. Feet pointed or flex. Inhale with control. Re-extend the leg and the arms overhead. Exhale, draws the belly in. Left knee pulls in. Arms pump. Head lifts. So we're using our muscles to try to draw that knee towards our nose. Inhale, re-extend. 1 more to each side. This is flowing wind relieving pose. So a little massage for the internal organs and our digestive system. Little strengthening and lengthening. After that left side, meet on the inhale, re-extend. Exhale, float both arms back down beside the body. Walk the feet in, heels towards the sit bones. Those of you that have a yoga block nearby, feel free to take it on its lowest setting, place it between your inner thighs. If we don't have a prop, just be mindful that your knees stay pointed towards your toes. Feet are parallel, tuck the shoulder blades under. Now we'll go through flowing bridge pose. This will stretch the iliopsoas, the front of the hips, and tighten and strengthen the back side. So squeeze the glutes, the back side of the body. Inhale, press down through the backs of the arms and the feet to elevate the hips up, getting a stretch. On the exhale, lower back down. Let your breath be the guide. So our breath really follows and leads the movement of the body. Inhaling, squeezing to lift. Exhaling to melt back down. So keep flowing. The weight should shift into the meaty part of the shoulders. Our neck should be in its natural curve away from the floor the whole time. As those muscles start to stretch a little bit more in the front body, we might be able to go a little bit higher. And then that's going to lift the chest towards the chin, but we want to avoid tucking the chin to the chest. And then those of us that want to add an upper back and shoulder massage here, and it's okay on the neck and shoulders, on those inhales as we squeeze to lift the hips up, the arms, 1 more time, reach up and overhead. And on the exhale, when we lower the hips down, the arms float all the way back down. So let's all try 2 more rounds of whatever variation feels best for our body today. Our next exhale is when we'll all catch up. Take your time. We'll lower the hips and the arms back down, taking the block out, little rock side to side. So let's do 1 more flowing movement here. I do like to do a little bit of flowiness, as you know, in my morning classes, especially those of us that haven't moved yet. So this will help loosen things up. So this is going to be our gentle twist and another little opening for those iliopsoas in the front of our hips. Open your feet as wide as your yoga mat. The knees are still bent up towards the ceiling. 1 more time, cactus your arms up from your shoulders. So bend at the elbows. They drop out to the sides of the shoulders. Backs of the hands try to fall back down towards the ground. So windshield wiper pose with our breath. Breathe it in. The exhale allows your knees to drop over to the right-hand side. They will not be stacked. They'll be staggered like windshield wipers. Your left side will gently arch away from the ground. The inhale brings the knees up. And then exhale, we allow the knees to sink to the left. Gentle back bend through the right side. And we should feel this along the top of the right hip. Keep moving with the breath again. Now the head can turn the opposite direction of the knees to get a counter twist for the neck. Try to keep both shoulders sinking in towards the ground. And again, as these muscles start to stretch and open up this morning, you might energetically try to draw those knees a little closer towards the ground. That will increase the stretch through the waist, the top of the hip, and the thigh. Let's take it one more time to each side. You'll move one more time to your right side. One more time to your left side. After we finish our left side, whenever we get there, float the knees to neutral, draw the belly in, pull the knees into the body, take the hands to the knees or the shins, and just gently rock side to side. Right arm falls beside the head. Roll and pause on our side for a moment. Either side that's comfortable for you. And then take the top hand to the ground. Extend the top leg to the front of the mat to help the body come up. And we'll find a seat. So I'm actually going to have us move right into Baddha Konasana today. I would like us elevated a little bit so that we can maintain a nice posture up the back of our spine. If you have that folded blanket you just used to support your back and you feel like that's high enough, use it. I need a little bit more, so I'm going to use my meditation cushion. It's about 3 inches or so. And what we're using that lift for is like a wedge to help us bring our pelvis into a nice neutral alignment and really sit to the front of our sit bones. So we'll lift ourselves up. Baddha Konasana, bound angle. We're trying to bring the soles of the feet together.
Joanne.
Slide any flesh out of the way that doesn't need to be there, literally moving the flesh and the muscles out from underneath the sit bones.
Joanne.
Yes.
So at this point, so for that uplift, can you even use the block?
So you can use a yoga block here. The yoga block sometimes is a little high for the knees. So if you're using a yoga block and you're that high up, just be very careful how that is for the knees on the outsides. But if that gets you set up nice and tall, I'm totally okay with that. Or if you have additional rolled towels that you could support with your knees, especially for you, because you take care of your knees a little bit here, right? So
yeah, okay.
just see how that translates for that.
Okay.
That's why I don't like to go too high up, because I start to feel that sometimes in my knees. But if I'm too low, then my back rounds because of tight hips and hamstrings.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So definitely, and I mean, if the modification for some people is to sit in a chair, well, how do you do bound angle from a chair? Well, you sit in your chair and your knees are wide and you can just bring your hands onto your thighs and hips. So there is always a modification there, but we just need to make sure that doesn't translate to other parts of the body. So I'm pretty high up, my knees are floating, but I feel pretty safe here with that. And the other thing we can do is if we're higher up and those of us that are tighter, if your knees are towards the floor, that's fine. Just bringing and really activating the soles of the feet towards each other can help. So let's try to press the centers of the heels together, the mound of the big toes, the mound of the pinky toes. And then try to pull your toes away from each other as you press those 3 points together and feel like you're trying to pull your thigh bones into your hip sockets. And just doing that, creating some energy in the pose can help protect those joints as well. And then again, we're trying to sit to the front of the sit bones and they'll really length up through the front of the spine. Hands can take a hold of the feet or the ankles. Breathe it in. So some of us might stay erect here, not even trying to hinge forward, just allowing those hips to get a little opening. If we feel like we have the space at this moment to lean slightly forward, the spine should still stay long. There's no rounding, the belly isn't hollowing in. It's an extension of the spine forward. And that's where we need to be mindful of how that feels for the low back. And we're just getting warmed up here, so don't, again, force anything. Might be backing out, take those 2 steps back. But let's just try to take one more breath here. If we have hinged forward, the inhale will float the crown of the head back up.
Now try to maintain this hold. Pull up through that pelvic floor and the low belly. Extend the arms out to the side here, palms up. And on our inhale, we're simply going to float our arms up to the ceiling now. So we're allowing the sit bones to sink down, but I'm trying to stretch my side bodies up towards the ceiling. And continue to press the feet to each other and pull the toes away from each other. Turn the palms out. Exhale, float it down. We'll try our seated triangle and bound angle today. So on the inhale, right arm comes up. On the exhale, I lean slightly over to my left. So same thing, I'm pushing the hip down to pull the waist up out of that hip. Inhale, pull ourselves up. Switch hands, you can be on your fingertips. Exhale, lean to the right as you push that left sit bone down. Inhale up. One more time to each side. We're moving in this lateral plane. Head is that natural extension of the spine. Breathe it in. And we'll take it one more time over to our right. Inhale, reach both arms straight up towards the ceiling. Bring the palms to touch and exhale to our center. So today, we're going to move right into Janu-Shirshasana. So let's leave the left knee open. Take a hold of your right knee, float it up, and slide that leg straight forward. Now again, if we're higher up, we need to be mindful that that knee isn't hyperextending to the ground. So if you're lifted higher up, our towels or blankets underneath that knee will help. And we don't need a strap. We're not trying to reach the foot today. This is going to be more about getting into that left hip and the back of the right leg. Now in this version of Janu-Shirshasana, hips are still squaring forward. We want to try to bring that left heel as close to the perineum or pelvic floor as possible. Again, if you're on a lift, the heel's going to hit the lift. It's not going to hit your pelvic floor. If you're able to be lower down, you might get a little bit of that contact, and that's kind of the area of the body that we're working with. Now the right foot needs to be actively flexed, toes to shin bone. And I want us all to take our fingertips beside our hips. So even if you're elevated, use just your fingertips and extend the spine upward. And then on the exhale, the fingertips can move forward to frame that thigh. Same thing, no rounding here. I want the spine to stay long. We're actually trying to hinge a little bit at the hips. And here you should be engaging the lower abdominals to protect the low back. Now some of you are going to have the flexibility to go a little further into the pose, but I want you to try to keep your hands to the sides of the leg today. Flare your elbows out if you happen to be going further into it so that the chest and heart stays open. Even once you drawing your shoulder blades onto your back. Eventually belly to thigh, drishti to that right big toe. And those of you that are able to bring your belly into your thigh, you're closer towards that extended leg. At that point, you may engage Jalandhara Bandha, chin to chest, and try to bring the forehead to the knee. That's the name of this pose, Janu-Shirshasana, head to knee pose. Don't force. Maybe it's time for us to take a step or two back. Wherever we are, try one more breath. And again, you can have that left knee supported still. Our next inhale floats the head up. Restack the spine. Take a hold of the left knee, help it up gently, and extend left leg to meet right leg in Dandasana. Use that support behind the knees if needed. Sit up nice and tall. Use your fingertips beside the hips to help you sit up nice and tall. From here, we'll go for the other side. So feet are actively flexed. We'll step that right foot in towards us. So in this version, you're trying to keep the hips and the legs straight forward. There's lots of different variations of Janu-Shirshasana. If you're up higher, make sure your left knee isn't collapsing to the ground. And then we'll allow the right knee to open, take support underneath that knee as well. We're trying to bring the heel up towards that pelvic floor as much as possible. Our natural flexibility at the ankle will affect how that works too. So if you're not able to come into as much extension, you won't be able to go as far. And then the sole of the foot, while the foot can come to the inner thigh. Fingertips beside the hips. Lift up. Draw those lower bandhas in for support. Keep that length. And then bring the fingertips forward. And on the exhale, you may try to hinge slightly towards the left leg. The toes and the knees should be pointing straight up towards the ceiling. So we're getting a little stretch through the right hip and a stretch up the back of the left leg. Heart opens and leads. Those of you that are able to have a little bit more space and bellies to thigh, you can engage your throat block and try to press the forehead towards the knee. We'll all try one more breath on this side. And then our inhale will float us back up when we get there through the crown of the head. Restack the spine, draw that right knee up, and then slide right leg to meet left leg. If you have support beneath the knees, make that equal. Dandasana, hands behind the hips, low belly pulls in, sit up nice and tall through the crown of the head. Flex those toes, pulling them in, including the pinky toes. Fire the tops of the thighs. Take a nice deep breath. And exhale, let it go. So we're gonna make a big transition here and flip ourselves all the way around into our tabletop for a moment. So reorganize ourselves in our space. We'll come right into tabletop, so we'll spread the fingers wide, stack those hands underneath the shoulders, press them to the ground. Position your knees underneath the hips, a little bit of space between the knees and the feet so their hips width apart. Let's give our back a little stretch out of those forward folds. So on our inhale, relax the abdomen, lengthening from the tip of the tailbone through the crown of the head. And I'm not just jamming my low back, so I'm not trying to bring the lumbar closer together. I'm trying to create space through the spine. And then on the exhale, scoop the tail under, tuck and round. So here, purposeful rounding really helps stretch out the muscles of the back. Inhale, lengthen as you come into your extension. Exhale, scoop, tuck, and round. Add little lateral movements or any other gentle movements in the neck and shoulders that might feel good for the back and the body. Let's come back into neutral position and take a child's pose for a moment just to give that low back and hips another stretch. So open your knees wider than the hips, big toes touch. Let's sink those hips towards the heels. Now the hands can continue to reach forward, even coming to Hasta Bandha on our fingertips as we draw the hips back and down. And then once we melt the belly, the heart, and the head down, that will intensify the stretch for the shoulders. If the head doesn't touch or we need a more passive child's pose today, stack the arms under the forehead. And just take a breath here to allow that low back to get a nice stretch. Sink those hips down to the heels, allow the head to relax down towards the ground. And then inhale, stretch those hands forward, float the body back up to our tabletop. So let's tuck our toes under, walk our hands one hand's distance forward, draw the low belly in, and from here on the inhale, float the hips up to the ceiling, and then exhale, shift your hips back and down, downward facing dog. To stretch out those knees, pedal your heels, one heel at a time. Again, getting into the backs of those legs today. Roll those shoulders away from the ears, but continue to root down to the mount of the index finger and the thumb. Have a look at those feet. They should be parallel, heels sinking directly behind the toes. Deep bend of the knees if you have any tension in the low back. And let's just try to take one more breath in stillness here. And then on our next inhale, let's look forward, step or walk our feet towards our hands in our first standing forward fold. Remembering that our modification is to bend the knees, placing elbows or hands on our thighs if we're done being upside down. If you're moving into the fuller forward fold here, really active, strong legs. So feel like you're trying to pull your kneecaps up your thighs. Continue to use the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha, and that low belly to support the back. Swim the shoulders, the head and neck, or take a hold of opposite elbows if you want to go a little bit deeper into the pose.
So let's do a little bit of our back strengthening from here today. On our inhale, we'll take our halfway lift. So hands to shins or even higher. Use the muscles of the back to float the chest. Pull the shoulder blades down the back, look slightly forward. Legs are nice and strong. On the exhale, you go back to your forward fold, whatever that looks like for you today. Inhale, power of the back, lifts us up, squeeze the upper back, nice strong legs. If you want more, locust your arms beside you, palms in, squeezing your triceps, good. Exhale, fold, just one more. Inhale, halfway lift, nice strengthening, pull those shoulders down the back. Next exhale leads us into Utkatasana, sitting back into an invisible chair and floating the arms up towards the ceiling. So it's important here for our knees that they're pointing directly towards the toes. Feet are parallel to each other. Head is floating, shrug those shoulders away. Any neck and shoulder tension, simply bring your hands to your heart. So I always like to go right into a little bit of balance, as you know. So let's do our one-legged lift here. Try to float the right foot from the floor, just into a little hover. Exhale, bring it down. Let's try that left foot from the floor, little hover. Exhale, bring it down. Sink a little lower down. And then on our inhale, rise all the way up into extended mountain. So straightening up the legs, extending the fingertips up to the ceiling. Now try to lift the heels up off the ground. Keep reaching, stretching, strengthening those feet and legs. Turn those palms out, and on the exhale, float your arms down beside you and let the heels sink down. Again, turn your palms out. Inhale, float up, lift your heels up, strengthening the ankles, the feet, and our brain. Turn the palms out. Exhale, float the heels and the arms down. So let's try one more variation of that. Bring your hands to prayer position. Interweave all 10 fingers here, thinking about those hands again. And then flip your palms forward. On the inhale, you float the arm bones up right beside the ears. Again, lift the heels up. On this exhale, when you lower the heels down, bend your elbows out so that the knuckles rest to the top of the head. Inhale, lift heels up, float those hands up. Exhale, lower the heels, knuckles to the crown of the head. Let's try one more. Inhale, see how high we can get. Press the heels of the hands up. And then exhale, lower it down. So one more time, we're gonna inhale, lift up, but I want us to try to hold here. Open the hands up, and we'll do a little swaying palm tree pose here. So our arms are open now. I'm on my tippy toes, and I'm adding a little bit of movement side to side. Now look, those lower bandhas can still be lifting in and up. Challenging pose on our tippy toes for sure. Bring it back to center. Inhale, reach. Exhale, release those arms down to the ground. So from here, bring your hands to heart. If you're not already towards the front of your yoga mat, let's come back towards the top of our yoga mat. So hands are in prayer, feet are parallel. On the exhale, I want you to sit down into Utkatasana again. So we're sitting back in that invisible chair. Draw the low belly in. From here, hover that right foot from the floor again. But this time I want us to try to take a big step back into a lunge. So the right foot is stepping back. We're not on a tightrope. Have some space between the feet. Now bring the hands to the hips. Take a hold of the pelvis. So what happens, and I won't demo it necessarily, is we tend to hyperextend our low back in our lunges and we thrust the rib cage forward. So I want you to draw those low ribs in, pulling front body to back body. Left knee should be ankle right over the ankle. And then I want you to take your pelvis and do a little tuck under, just a little. And what we're doing is we're drawing that lower buttock down, pushing the right hip forward, and we should be feeling a big stretch up through the front of that right hip. Well, it's a really big stretch for me, but so this is opening up the iliopsoas, the front of the hip. You got to pull front body to back body, lengthen the tailbone down. And this is a balancing pose, so we're on the ball of the back foot. If you do want to add more balance on the inhale, reach the arms up.
And we haven't done any twisting yet, so I'm gonna offer an option here to do some movement and twist in our high lunge. But keep pushing your right hip forward. On the exhale, twist to your left. Bring the arms parallel to the floor and try to peek behind you. A revolved lunge. Inhale, draw the arms up. Exhale, open twist to your right. We're still on the ball of the foot. The arms come parallel. Good. Let's try that one more time each side. Inhale, arms up. Now the hips stay square the whole time. Exhale, squeeze to your left. Inhale up. Even this upward twist, we're opening through the upper back, the torso. My right hip is still facing forward. Excellent. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Little balance work here. Try to shift your weight forward and step back forward and down into Utkatasana. These are really powerful poses to also strengthen our legs. On the inhale, draw a big circle with your fingertips. Straighten the legs up, arms up, look up, extended mountain. Exhale, hands to heart. Pull your hands in front of the center of the heart. Sit back down to Utkatasana. Draw the belly in. Hover the left foot from the floor. Big step back into a high lunge. Hips are still square. Find your balance here. Open up the feet a little wider if needed. Right knee anchored above the right ankle. Now bring the hands onto those hips. And from here, pull your front body to back body. Make sure you're not flaring your rib cage open. We're contracting it in. Little tuck of that pelvis under. Lengthening the upper buttock down to the ground. That left leg is trying to be slightly straight, but you will have a little bend in that knee. We're focusing more on getting the front of this left hip to open. So it's not a big movement, but if you can create that little tilt there, you'll really get a nice opening through the iliopsoas. Challenging our balance. Inhale, arms up. And then adding this twisting movement. On the exhale, twist to the right first. Close twist. So I'm squeezing the right side. Arms parallel, try to maybe peek behind you. Inhale up. Hips stay square. Exhale to your left. You're rotating through the upper torso, shoulders. Good. Inhale up. One more time to each side. Exhale, nice big squeeze and twist. Keep pushing the left hip forward. Inhale. Exhale, open, upper body only, left hip still pushing forward. Inhale. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. Left foot steps forward, shift your weight forward and down into Utkatasana. Sink those hips. And then big inhale, release your arms nice and wide. Reach up, up, up to the ceiling. Drishti thumbs for a gentle back bend. And then exhale, we'll meet back in center. And then release. So since we're standing, let's try one more standing pose, balancing pose. I did not grab my chair, but I can use the wall if needed. Now look, this next pose, you need to be careful with the knees. This is going to be another stretch for the front of these hips and these thighs here, okay? So depending where we are, I'll give you some modifications. If you're near a wall, you can use a wall. If you want a chair near you to help with your balance, you're welcome to do that. Or I'm going to try and do it standing in a free-for-all here. So this is not going to be full Natarajasana or standing bow pose. I really just want us to target the front of the hip or thigh. And like I said, for some of us, we're not going to be able to take hold of the foot. So we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. So one of the things we could do if we are near a wall, I just want to show you, is to walk up towards the wall. Your feet will be parallel to each other. And simply the action of pressing your hips towards the wall and lengthening the lower buttock down will give you a little bit more opening to the front of the hip. We'll start with the left foot, so you can bring the left foot up. I'm just showing this now for people that won't be able to take a hold of their foot. And then eventually what you're trying to do is continue to push your hips towards the wall. They're not quite touching, but action of low back down, hips in. So if you want to try the standing version, here's where we go. We bring the insides of the feet and legs to touch. Inhale, reach those arms up. Now on the exhale, bring your arms back down beside you, but we bring our left hand to our, let's see, I'm mirroring you. Right hand to our hip. The left hand's gonna come down beside us, the palm facing in. So same action, don't hyperextend the low back, stay rooted. Bend your left foot up behind you. So just like I showed you using it at the wall, you're just using your muscles. Now those of us that are able to, you'll drop that hand down and take a hold of the outside of the foot with the palm of the hand. Now most importantly, both knees need to be connected and pointing down towards the ground. So this will also be a shoulder stretch. Low belly pulls in. Now, if you have a hold of the foot, top of the foot, knees together. Instead of thrusting the belly and the ribs forward, draw front body to back body. The more you can press the knee down, knees are together, and the hips forward, the more you'll get that stretch up the front of the quad and the hip. Without even kicking the foot back, not necessary. And of course, it's a challenging balancing pose, so you could have your right hand to the chair or the wall. And I think I got my left and rights mixed up, but I have my left leg first, so hopefully we all have our left foot up. Keep pushing the hips forward, even tighten your glutes just slightly. Breathe it in. Now to release the foot, just gently let it go. Step it back down to mountain pose. Reach the arms up for a moment and just check in with the body and the breath, see how that feels, especially for the knees. Inhale, reach those arms up. On the exhale, float your arms back down. This time take left hand to hip. Your right arm comes down with the palm facing in. Some of us just might be bending the foot up, and that's as far as we get today. You'll still get that action of balance, strengthening, and stretching. Those of us that are able, you'll point the toes of the right foot, reach around and take a hold of the outside of the foot. So from the front, it's important that your knees are together and down. And that is a big stretch. From the side, same thing, knees are together and down. The heel's drawing towards the glute, and I am actively pushing my hips forward. A little bit of shoulder stretch without hyperextending my low back, so I'm continuing to pull front ribs and abs in. The more you can point that right knee to the ground, keep your knees together and hips forward, the more you'll feel this through the front of the quad and the hip. Should not be straining the knee. Are we breathing? Let's take one more breath. Take a breath in. Again, if we have the foot, just carefully try to release the foot. Exhale, plant it down into Tadasana. Reach the arms up from beside the body and stand on both legs nice and tall. Relax the head on the shoulders. So that's a challenging pose, I know. I'm just getting a hold of the foot and everything, but that's okay. Inhale, reach it up. Big stretch. Palms touch. Exhale to our heart. If you're at the front of your mat, great. We're going to walk it to the back of our mat. So let's all try to end up towards the back of our mat. From here, cross your right foot over your left foot. Bring your hands to your hips. And then try to hinge from your hips into a variation of Uttanasana. This is going to stretch those outer hips a little bit more. Modification, stop halfway, place your hands on your top thigh and bend your knees a little bit. Deepening the stretch, we'll continue to extend the fingertips towards the ground. And some of you will notice that you'll feel this a little bit more on that right hip with the right foot crossed in front. Continue to try to draw belly to thighs. Now to come up, you can place your hands on your thigh. We'll try to roll up. So you're tucking your chin and inhaling, coming up one vertebra at a time. Make sure you're inhaling, especially if you went upside down. Uncross. Left foot crosses in front of right foot. You're trying to get them nice and close. Just a different variation of our forward fold. Hinge from your hips. You're welcome to place some gentle weight on that top thigh with your hands, but that means your knees need to be slightly bent. Don't jam your knees backwards and do that, okay? And it's a little bit more challenging of a balance. If that doesn't work for you today, you can keep your feet hips width apart. Those of us who want to go a little bit further, belly to thighs, reaching the fingertips down. And again, we usually feel that a little bit more on the front hip.
Just one more breath. Take the hands to the thighs, little bend in the knees, pull the belly in. Inhale, we're rounding up. Take it easy to come up. Open the feet up. Extend the arms out into mountain pose. Take a breath. Inhale, reach those arms up, nice stretch. Exhale, hands to heart. So from here, you might just walk yourself into down dog. I am going to do Padangusthasana at this point. This is a pose we've been practicing through the month of June. So for Padangusthasana, at the back of your mat, feet are a little closer together, and then we do knock the knees together. So we squeeze them together. Pull that low belly in. Try to float your heels up, and then reach your arms forward and out. So the action, our knees squeezing, belly in, trying to slide down that invisible wall. Now this is a really powerful pose. It can put too much pressure on people's knees. So if it does, you're just gonna come down to your forward fold and walk yourself into downward facing dog. Those of us sliding down into Padangusthasana, keep squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. We'll try to hold. Down dog people, will be there in just a second. You can pedal your heels, stretch things out. Padangusthasana people, continue to pull the belly in, squeeze, hover, and hold. Big breath in. And then exhale, let's drop our fingertips to the floor. Walk our hands forward. Lift the hips up. Position your feet parallel to each other. And let's stretch it out in downward facing dog. Take a breath. Inhale, lift those heels up. And then on the exhale, let's drop down to our knees, back to tabletop. Keep your toes tucked under. Position your hands underneath the shoulders. So I am gonna do a little bit of that wrist work now. We did this last time at the beginning of class. Let's try it at the end of class. These are gonna be some poses, again, that you might need to back off a little bit. We won't hold them as long. So we're back in our tabletop. We'll start with our right hand. So it's important that your right fingers are spread nice and wide. And we're taking the top of the right hand, so you flip the palm up to the ceiling, and you place your right hand right underneath the nose. So if I turn myself to the front here, I'm gently placing my right hand right underneath the nose, fingers wide on the back of the hand. Now my left hand is my anchor and support, so if I want to do less, I'm really using my left arm, fist, fingertips, even a flat palm to take the weight. You just gently stretch it there. Those of us that want a little bit more, you will take your left hand, palm down on top of the right hand. You fan the fingers so that the fingers are not stacked, but the thumbs are. And that's gonna take it up a notch. So right hand is on the bottom, left palm on top of right palm. Flare the fingertips so they're not stacked, the thumbs are. And some of us might feel like we want even a bigger stretch. Those toes are tucked under. You may try to lift up and back and to down dog. Real funky pose. Got a lot of funky poses today. Wherever we are, one more breath. To release, drop the knees down to the ground. Today we're gonna just release our hands right away. So with those toes tucked under, you can choose to peel your left hand off, right hand off, and sit back on your heels. We float the arms up and you just let your fingertips dangle. Don't try to do any movement with your hands yet. That's a pretty powerful pose. So we're in broken toe pose, stretching our toes out and relaxing our hands for a moment. Too much for the feet, you can sit back on your heels, a prop, whatever works for you. Wiggle your fingertips. Take a hold of the fingers. Pretend like you're trying to pull them apart, but they won't go anywhere. And then release the arms down, out and up, inhale. On the exhale, make two fists. Let's do our thumb clenching mudra. So clench your thumb with your four fingers and roll your wrists as you lower the arms down the side. Inhale, arms up. Clench those fists, roll those wrists the other way. That feels weird. I can't figure that out. It's funny how the brain is. All right, let's do our other side.
So we'll come back to tabletop. Spread the fingers of the left hand, turn the palm up. The hand comes directly underneath the nose. And you want to try to get the 4 fingers and the thumb touching the ground. And that might be enough for us today. So some of us will just stay here. You'll let your right hand take some of the weight so all the pressure isn't in that left wrist. You could be on your right fist as well. That feels good. We want a little bit more of a stretch. Right palm to left palm. Flare the fingers so they're not stacked, but the thumbs are. A little bit more pressure there. Even more. Tuck toes. Funky at first. Lift your hips up and back, down dog. One more breath, wherever we are. Lower back down to those knees that were lifted. Keep your toes tucked under. Today, we're just going to bring the weight off the right hand and then the left hand. We can sit back in broken toe pose. First, you just want your arms to dangle out in front of you. You've got to get the blood back down into the wrists and the fingertips. Take a hold of those fingers. Pretend like you're trying to pull them apart. They won't go anywhere. Inhale, release the hands. Draw a big circle overhead. Clenching thumb, our mudra of security and safety. Grab that thumb. Roll your wrist one direction as you come down. Think about which way you're rolling on because I really had trouble trying to do it the other way. Inhale up. Clench the thumb and try to roll those wrists the other way. Good. Release. Come off those feet. Your choice from tabletop. Stretch one leg out at a time through the heel. Or one more time, we can lift up and back to stretch out the legs and down dog. And down dog. Inhale, heels up. Big stretch. Exhale. Let's drop back down. Point the toes and try to sink back down into child's pose. Maybe with the knees together. Palms up towards the ceiling. Relax the head to the ground. And drop those shoulders down to the ground. One more breath. And then hands under the shoulders, tuck the chin, round it on up, one vertebra at a time. We'll shift our weight over to either hip and bring our feet forward. All right, since I got my watch on, I'm not going to teach a 3-hour class today. I want to get into that funky pose. We might still have time to do at least one stretch with our straps, so you can have that nearby you and have any other props that you might want. And we need our block for our supported bridge pose. So I don't know that we'll get to the strap today, but let's have our block ready or our folded blanket. And we can just use our hands to come down to the ground today. We'll roll onto our back and reorganize ourselves here on our mat. So take a moment, loosen things up, align the head with the spine. Draw that belly in, relax the low back, and hug our knees in. So this next pose is going to be for the iliopsoas and the quadriceps again. We have done this before. I'm not sure last time we did it, but. All right, so try to listen to the verbal cueing. It just gets a little weird because it's that left-right, side-to-side business for our brain, which is a good thing to use. Cross your right ankle only on top of your left ankle. Right ankle on top of left ankle. Then take your right hand and try to reach down and take a hold of the left foot, the top of the left foot. So this is kind of something like we did earlier with shoulders under. Now the right foot's got to move out of the way, so just float it up. Look at your left knee, just like we did in our standing pose. This is kind of mimicking the same stretch, usually a little bit deeper on the ground. Your left knee should fall straight forward and down to the ground, not out to the side. Just like in our standing knee pose, we've kept the knees together. So right hand may be a hold of the left foot. We try to bring the left foot over to the right glute. Keep both side bodies nice and long. Now the right leg's just floating in the air. Some of us might start to feel this in the front of that left hip and thigh. If we don't feel anything yet, next variation, take both hands across the right shin bone or behind the thigh if that's better for your knee.
and gently try to draw the right knee towards the right shoulder. Simultaneously push your left knee down to the ground. Next variation, release your right foot back down to the floor, right in front of the left ankle, and then allow your right knee to fall open. For me, this is more intensity, so we're getting the stretch on the left side, left front of the quad, left hip and iliopsoas. If you like one of those previous versions better, go ahead and go back to it. If your low back is hyperextending too much, try to flatten out that low back even more. One more element. Arms reach overhead, taking a hold of opposite elbows to keep our side bodies nice and long. And then you really do try to just release the body to gravity and let gravity take over. Try to take some nice deep breaths with the belly. Relax the face, the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Let's try one more breath. And then we'll want to release the pose, same way we went into it. So we got to reverse out of those positions. Arms come down, right knee floats up, pull the right leg back up. From here, carefully slide the left foot out. Either step both feet to the ground and rock your knees side to side gently. Or you may hug your knees in and massage out the back that way. And then let's all draw the knees back into the body. This time cross left ankle on top of right ankle, just at the ankles. Take the left hand and reach down and try to take a hold of the top of the right foot, even if it's just by the toes. Left foot's got to float up a little bit to make space. Look at your right knee. Your knees should be together, your right knee should be pointing up. You're drawing your right knee forward and down, straight down to the ground in front of the hip, not out at an angle like you would a pigeon pose. And you're continuing to encourage right foot to left buttock. Now, if you don't have a hold of the right foot, just do your best. Make sure you're grounding the low back, side body stay nice and long. Now, this side feels quite different than my first side, a lot tighter, so I'm already feeling this a little bit more. I'm going to continue to encourage the right knee down. Shoulders are relaxed down. Second variation, take a hold of the left shin bone or behind the knee and gently draw the left knee to the left shoulder. Simultaneously continue to push the right knee towards the ground. Next variation, we let the left foot come back down to the ground in front of the ankle. The left knee does fall open like bound angle pose. For some of us, that's going to intensify that stretch along the right side. Continue to draw the right knee to the ground, low back to the ground, shoulders to the ground. Arms may reach overhead, take a hold of the opposite elbow. Even close the eyes at this point. We just try to release the weight of the body to gravity. Exhaling away any tension or tightness we might find. One more breath, let it go. And then we'll slide the arms back down if they're overhead. Carefully float the left knee back up. Lift the left leg in so you can create space to gently slide the right foot up. Your choice, drop both feet back to the ground, rock knees here, or hug knees into body and rock there. So we have one more restorative pose to do. We'll just hold it for about a minute or so. So we'll all bring those feet back to the floor parallel to each other.
have your yoga block, a firmly folded towel, blanket, or a firmer pillow or cushion would also work nearby. Draw the shoulder blades under. Squeeze the buttock and the glutes. Press down through the backs of the arms and the feet. And inhale, hips float up. Sliding our prop underneath the flat lowest part of the back, so that our prop is supporting the whole weight of our hips and our pelvis. Little flesh hanging off the end is fine. It should not be up into the curve of the lumbar spine. Supported bridge pose. Shoulders are under, head is in neutral. Hands can even rest on the belly here. Down beside you, more of Shavasana, palms up. If it's okay in the neck and the shoulders and you want more chest opening, cactus your arms out from your shoulders. From here, stay here, or slide your right heel forward, testing the waters for full bridge. So this is that big arch that's going to happen here across the front of the hip. If the right side feels okay, bring the right foot in. Slide the left heel straight forward. See how that side feels. And really we're seeing how this translates to the low back and the SI joints. Probably feels quite nice for the front of the hip. It counters all the sitting, but we need to be safe for the back. So if that side feels okay and you'd like to move into Purna Setu Bandhasan, both heels slide forward. Keep both feet active, toes and knees point towards the ceiling. The glutes might be lightly engaged if that gives your low back more support. And we feel this wonderful opening through the thighs, the hips, iliopsoas, the abdominals. And like I said, we'll just hold for a moment here. If we need to come out of the pose, just come out of the pose. Take some smooth, deep breaths in the body. We'll try one more breath in the pose. Nice big exhale out. So we want to release this. Nice and easy, 1 foot at a time, steps in. Arms slide back down beside the body. Use the backs of those upper arm bones. Feet are secured. Strengthen up the backside, give it a squeeze. Lifting up just high enough to float the hips up to slide our prop out. So today what I would suggest, instead of hugging the knees into the body, is just to keep your knees bent up and rock them side to side so we can maintain some of this opening in the hips instead of closing it right back up. And actually moving right into our final relaxation from there. So again, instead of drawing the knees in like we normally do, we can let the knees fall open, soles of the feet touch back to Baddha Konasana, or extend the legs out. Now, if we do want to add our pillows and our blankets, by all means, take a moment to safely roll to one side and slide those props underneath the body. However, if you're comfortable flat to the floor and you feel nice and grounded here, just allow the body to stretch out and open, maintaining that openness that we just created. Use your eye coverings if they're nearby. I'll give us a moment to figure out where we want to be with our props and our space and our surroundings. I'll guide us just through a little bit more relaxation to help the body relax. Give us our moments of peace and quiet. And then use the singing bowl to bring us out of our Shavasana today. So we'll want to find the very back center of the skull. Allow the eyes to sink in the sockets. Move the cheeks up with air, wiggle out the mouth so that we can relax the tongue, the lower jaw, and throat. Position the arms as symmetrically as possible beside the body. Relax the hands, the fingertips. And feel the bones of the arms sink into the ground, loosening at the joints. Relax and soften across the front of the body, the chest, the heart, the belly, all of the abdominal muscles. Relax down the back, vertebra by vertebra, allowing our low back to sink into the earth. Feel the bones of the pelvis, the area where the thigh bone connects. Relaxing all the muscles around those areas. Feel the bones all the way down the legs. Allow them to feel heavy as they sink into the ground. Loosen into the joints. And then relax all the little bones in the feet and the toes. Whole body relaxes. The breath is easy, quiet, and calm. If the mind wanders, we can bring it back to the peaceful breath. Or we can mentally repeat the mantra associated with Muladhara chakra, the lower half of our body. The seed mantra is the mantra LAM, L-A-M. Other mantras associated with this area of the body are I am grounded, I am safe, I am secure. And we'll give ourselves just one more moment here to let go, to feel a sense of surrender, and to simply be and breathe. Slowly start to come back to the breath in the body.
And then breathing life back into our body as we wake up the toes, the fingertips, a little rock of the head side to side, rolling the ankles and the wrists. If the knees are open in Baddha Konasana, float the knees up and stretch the legs straight down the mat. Next inhale, floats those arms overhead into long body stretch. Spreading fingers and toes and creating space throughout the whole body. Side to side, front to back. Big breath in. This exhale floats those arms down and walks the feet in. And then drawing the knees in to massage the back. Right arm falls beside the head, rolling and pausing on our side just for a moment, cradling the head on the arm. And then we'll keep the eyes closed or soft, press into the ground to bring the body back up. Taking any comfortable seated position and taking just a couple more breaths together today. So we want to sit up tall on those sit bones through the crown of the head. Being mindful of our surroundings, we'll stretch the arms out beside us, palms up. Big breath in to float those arms up, and let's gather up everything we need for the rest of our day. Turn those palms out, float those fingertips all the way back to the floor, and exhaling away all that other junk that we don't need today. And one more breath together. Inhale, arms up. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. Humbly bowing the head down to the heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and remembering to be grateful to anyone else that made it possible for us to connect and practice our yoga today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. And I thank you all as usual for joining me, for staying connected. A huge thank you to Austin Yoga Tree and Jonathan and Adit and Vicky that are doing so much behind the scenes to keep us all connected. And of course, it wouldn't happen with all of you. So good class. We did some different things today. I hope it felt good for everybody. Hi, Kathy.
Thanks, Joanne.
You are so welcome.
Thank you, Joanne.